good morning, everyone.
Morning, Anne.
Good morning, Kunan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne.
Yes, thank you. Hello, Jonathan. Oh, good morning, John. John's ready, everyone.
สวัสดีค่ะ everyone. I'm ready now.
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับสวัสดีครับอาจารย์
How are you, everyone?
สบายดีค่ะ
สบายดี
ทุกคน
Yes,
สบาย
well,
ดี
thank
ค่ะ
you.
Very much.
And how was your trip to India, อาจารย์
Very good. Always good.
I saw some photographs of the interest that people had. It was wonderful, all the people that came to listen. If there are no other questions to start, I have one. Is there a difference between wrong thinking and wrong understanding? Or what is the difference, or are they very close to each other?
So the question is, what does one mean by wrong thinking?
Right.
Because wrong understanding is michaditi, the
Yes,
chaitasika, which arises for a moment only when
Yeah,
there
you've
is
got it.
wrong understanding of the aramana,
Right.
along with ignorance and attachment.
So the
And
question is, what is wrong thinking? That's right. Okay.
what is wrong thinking? Because usually we think of wrong thinking as a story, like, oh, when someone has the idea that they should pray to a god or the Buddha, we say this is wrong thinking, and we think of the whole story. But actually, different moments, different chitas, moments of thinking with attachment and wrong understanding, moments of seeing, moments of hearing, moments of thinking about the flowers just with attachment, but no wrong understanding. So when it is the moments with wrong understanding, then at those moments, it is the wrong vitaka, the wrong vichara, the wrong understanding, the wrong virya, all the wrong factors arise together at that moment for a moment. So by wrong thinking, we have to be more and more precise. We can say conventionally, oh, it's wrong thinking when there's the idea there is a self, but it is just the moments when the chitta experiences an object with ditthi and micca vitaka at those moments.
Okay. Yes, so moment to moment. So,
And
well,
even the very, very subtle asava of ditthi arises with akusala vitaka, arises even in the sensual process, even after seeing and hearing, even though there's no idea of thinking as we conventionally think about it. So that's why we have to understand more about the realities like Ditti and Vitakka and Sanya, and understand more about when they arise, to really understand what is the wrong thinking. But
Wrong
perhaps Jan would like to elaborate and add more.
In a day, there's a lot of thinking. After seeing instantly, if we don't talk about each moment of a process, but wrong understanding and wrong thinking, can we say that at any moment of akusala, it is wrong thinking? And at moment of having such wrong understanding, thinking that we should pay respect to the tree or the idol and so on, no reason at all, because of wrong belief of something conditions such action. That's why all depends on conditions, not just right now, but its condition developed or accumulated so long ago, until we don't know at this moment of hearing and considering what would be sankhara, khandha, or dhamma to condition the next 100,000 years ahead. We don't know at all. That's why it just learn about the truth of it's just a moment of experiencing an object, but no understanding of what is there at all, whether it is attachment or very, very subtle clinging to that object unknowingly, just like now. See, who knows, that's clinging to that which is seen, that which is heard all the day, all the time. It depends on conditions. That's why this very subtle akusala can be known only when Panya develops so great that it can understand the right path, what is wrong, even just a little bit. It's not right on the way to let go because it's there as just a moment of clinging to that object. Very, very subtle. That's why just understanding what is said about the truth of what is there right now. Because the other moment, like seeing while one is listening, is there with akusala. That's why understanding how deep and how profound about the truth of what is there has to be considered by Dhamma that Buddha pinpointed, that it's not the seeing, but other Cetasikas arising, performing the function just in a moment. And who knows, the understanding of even just right now, it conditioned, it accumulated, and it is sankhara, conditioned the other moment from moment to moment, because this moment cannot arise again at all. But what is there now, from moment to moment, is the condition to condition the next moment ahead. We don't know when at all. Even thinking about this right now is conditioned by how long ago, years and years, who knows. That's why just learn to understand. Understanding can arise gradually, little by little, from hearing and considering carefully about just one word, to get closer and closer to understanding it, even it's just right now. It's not I or anyone or anything. See, that's why we learn about the process, one process to another process with Vavanka and so on. And this has to be conditions for the next moment ahead. We don't know. There can be right understanding instantly. Who knows? When time comes, when conditions are ready to understand that which has been heard long time ago. So now we just talk about the truth to have a little more understanding. That's all. Nothing can be done at all. It's gone already. even the understanding of what is heard at all. Who knows how much it is, how it's now developing to understand the truth of seeing right now, because it's not understood right then, now at all. That's why just listen to understand how much understanding of the truth, which is there right now, so very subtle, very deep. But the truth is there, deeper and deeper, not just as that which appears as nimitta of such and such in a day, but the truth is that just a moment, it's gone. What is there, impinged on the eye base, object of that which sees it, and then gone. No more, never be again in samsara. Just learn about the truth from what Buddha taught to understand the nature of that which is there now as no one at all. Gradually, little by little. So when we think of what is right thinking, or what is wrong thinking, or what is wrong understanding, it's only idea about that which is heard. It has to be like this, without hearing about the truth at all. How can there be a moment of considering it, whether it's this or that? But in truth, it's so very subtle. We don't try to understand the difference between vitakka and vichara right now, but from hearing, it conditioned the understanding of the nature of what is not appearing, cannot be known at all. So if we learn about the truth of seeing, it takes quite a long time to develop the understanding of the nature which arises and see. That's all, right now, any moment. Just to understand more subtlety, more subtle truth of that which is there now. That is the way to let go, the path leading to let go, because understanding is there, the first factor of the noble truth. Right understanding only is there, developed by many conditions, many cetasikas, that's all. Learn to understand that even just a moment, how come not to be anyone, just arise and falls away in split seconds, gone. This is the path leading to understand what is there. When time comes, satipatthana, it arises and is aware of that which is now appearing, not so strong at the very beginning, but the understanding the difference between moment of hearing and moment of being aware of just a reality by conditions. No thought about it before. It's the only truth that can lead to more and more, no one and nothing at all. That's why just listen, see, and begin to understand one reality at a time, by conditions, not by me, but what is heard should be considered carefully. That's all. And it develops the understanding of no one gradually by itself. So any moment, hearing any word of the truth, it can be object of considering a little more. For example, Dhamma, all are Dhammas. No matter we talk about Paticca or anything, just to learn about Dhamma. That's all. On and on and on, a little more, a little more. Development of understanding has to be only by this moment of understanding. So the path is so subtle too, just right now. So we can talk about any word Buddha taught to understand a little more, to and it develops its own by itself in its own way to understand the truth so unknowingly because it's gone from moment to moment.
All very subtle and intricate.
Yes, very, very much. The
Right.
more understanding, it is right understanding of the path. And at that moment, it let go, thinking that it's not so very, very subtle. Just seeing right now, see, it seems like nothing more than just seeing, but the understanding of the reality which is there, sees just a moment and then never to arise again. In samsara, that's why people in the past listened and considered naturally the whole life from life to life as Jataka. So now it's just a moment in samsara.
It's bringing to mind, well, I've said it, I've thought, it's just bringing to mind how much life is just all moments. I mean, I've heard this before, I've said it before, but it really, it can sink in deeper sometimes. Yeah, just moment to moment to moment. And it doesn't really matter what those moments are. What is important is the understanding, the
And
right understanding of
yeah,
them.
Satya Barami, Adidana Barami never changed.
Right.
And what is there in daily life is so very truthful to the truth. Now, what is it? It's not known yet, but it develops until it knows.
Mm.
And that is the way to let go. Because hearing now, considering now, and understanding now, and after that, whatever is there, unexpectedly. So the unexpected moment is there all the time in life, in samsara, but no understanding of it yet until we talk about it. Just right there is seeing, but the truth is that the next moment, as it has gone, is there right now, unknown before, unexpectedly, until Panya can understand what it's meant by unexpectedly. All are unexpected moments by conditions, not just right now of this life, long, long time ago.
Mm.
That's the way Dhamma is. No one can change it until Panya can understand thoroughly. No one there at all. Only the way Dhamma is. Just conditioned to arise and fall away. Because of ignorance, there is attachment, stage by stage, different levels, very subtle until it show up. So now it does not show up yet. Attachment to seeing, see. So right understanding get deeper and deeper. Understanding this subtlety of what is there to understand. It's very subtle, Lopai. still there to let go. More natural, because just right now, after seeing what is there, see, it begins to be known. Anantara Paccaya and Samanantara Paccaya just learn to understand the truth that actually there's no one at all. All dhammas are anatta. Each word brings about closer moment to understand. Dhamma, anatta.
Thank you. Always so much more to consider and listen to again and again.
By
And
condition.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it indicates it's never about the situation, like just at the end of the last session, we were talking about how are you, Sabainaka? And we cannot say from the expression what the chitta is, whether it's with attachment or metta, with right view or wrong view, with just ignorance. Because even when we say, how are you, Sabainaka? So many different chittas, moments of seeing, moments of attachment, moments of hearing, moments of thinking, right understanding, wrong understanding. Only Panya can know, no other way at all. We cannot assume.
Can't assume any.
anything.
I'm sorry, Sarah, you can't assume.
We cannot assume anything. We cannot assume that when we hear how are you, that the chittas are all kusala or akusala or with all attachment or no attachment, because each one is conditioned, different moments. Without understanding, nothing is known at all.
Yeah, that's a good example. Very good.
How are your family? How's your son getting on? Who can say what the chitta is at that moment? Different moments, yes.
Nobody, yes, you cannot know for sure without very developed panya. So,
And it can only know one's own chitta, not the others.
yes, not in others.
Yeah.
So we think we know when there is probably, might be attachment. And that comes from, well, it doesn't, thinking you know certainly comes from ignorance, unless there really has been the panya that knows. But we get these ideas or that sense that it must be there. And that would come from hearing the Dhamma. It's, as a sort of a foundation. So there's a huge distance between knowing intellectually, and I guess through one's feelings, that's wrong, through feelings, that something is probably there arising, but we can't know for sure or at what moments it might happen. That
Well,
that
like you
sense
say,
of what
this,
might be happening, it seems to be real.
or like you say, there's more and more appreciation of how there are more and more subtle layers. So before hearing the Dhamma, when we say, how are you, or how's your family, we assume it's all out of kindness and goodwill, but we begin to appreciate moments of a clinging too, moments of, and in between, seeing, hearing, and so on. So the kusala moments are just for moments, not for how are you, not for the time it takes to ask someone how they are. So, and a little more understanding of attachment, even if it's just the thinking about the attachment, but closer and closer to the reality. But even then, it's just the gross attachment, not the very subtle asava that arises. And same with the ditthi and the ignorance too. So layers and layers to be understood, but beginning to appreciate that most of the time there's ignorance and no knowing is also very useful. Otherwise, we just assume this and that, and the same about others. We assume they're just asking with kind wishes, but we cannot assume anything.
No, we can't know for sure. I like your image, layers and layers. Jonathan?
I was just going to add a couple of things. Firstly, that we learn about right and wrong thinking so that if and when they appear, they can be known, but not so that we can necessarily know whenever the thinking is right or wrong, if you see what I mean. It's not so that we can then always be able to identify right or wrong thinking, but just if it appears, then it can be known for what it is. The other comment I was going to make, getting back to your original question about the difference between right and wrong, about the difference between wrong thinking and wrong understanding, is also to consider what is the difference between right thinking and right understanding.
Yes.
And the word understanding, of course, gives it away in the sense that right understanding is a moment of understanding of the nature of things as they are, whereas right thinking doesn't involve having a view about realities. Right understanding, we can say, is the right view of the way things are. Yeah. But right thinking is thoughts that are not concerned with the nature of the present moment realities. So I think in the suttas, they're defined as thoughts of non-attachment, non-ill will, and something else, and non-cruelty and non-ill will, and renunciation, those three things. And such thoughts occur from time to time, but without necessarily being accompanied by any kind of understanding. Of course, as a path factor, they must be together with understanding, but if we are just considering the meaning of right thinking on its own, then they are wholesome thoughts as opposed to unwholesome thoughts, as Ajahn mentioned at the beginning of what she was saying in the akusala thoughts. But they are not concerned with an understanding of the way things are. Whereas wrong understanding, obviously, one thinks that one does understand, but that is incorrect. One is understanding wrongly. One has a misconception. Yeah.
Yes. And that certainly, I would think, would be true when we're talking about, beliefs in other belief in a God, a creator, etc. But it's much more subtle than that, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Much more subtle. Very, very. Yeah.
Right. It can be the wrong idea about cause and effect, for example.
Yeah.
Or it is what is behind thoughts of wrong practice or ideas of practicing that are not in accordance with the teachings. They are.
Yeah, this is wrong view. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at root, it's wrong view.
Yeah. Yes.
I wish I had more understanding, or if only I had more understanding of this, that, and the other. That's all an aspect of wrong view.
Okay, thank you. That helps. It all helps. Thank you very much.
Sal, I don't know if you are able to speak. You said on DSG that you are studying more about Upanishya Pachya, the different kinds of Upanishya Pachya. Would you like to ask more or bring up this topic for further discussion now?
Thank you, Khun Sarah. And I think just for the beginner to read about the Pratana, so maybe I would like to hear some guiding basically for the beginner to begin about this. Thank you, Khun Sarah.
Okay, so maybe we can begin to discuss in simple terms, looking at one word at a time. So first of all, Pachya, I think you understand that Pachya refers to a condition. Before we heard the Buddha's teachings, there were all these ideas of, yes, I can change my behavior. I should have done something different yesterday. This is what I should do now, and so on, not understanding at all that whatever arises now are just different realities, different dhammas arising by different conditions, different pachya. And most people are familiar with some pachya at some level, like we know that seeing now is conditioned by karma. So karma is one pachya, even though we don't understand the details about the reality and so on. But anyway, Upanishya Pachya. So Upanishya is the support or the accumulation condition. So actually there are different kinds of Upanishya, different kinds of decisive support, decisive condition, that condition the citta now, the cetasika now. One, Ajahn referred to one term a little earlier in the discussion, anantara. So each citta conditions the other by anantara, pachya, proximity condition. And there's another condition which is very closely related, anantara upanishya pachya. So it's the same conditioned Dhamma. The citta now is conditioned by the previous citta. But what kind of citta, what kind of reality is decisive in conditioning this moment of thinking now, as opposed to a different kind of thinking with attachment about what was eaten, or thinking with right understanding about sound now? It depends on the previous reality that conditions the citta at this moment, that is decisive in conditioning this particular reality at this moment, the anantara upanishya pachya. And we also learn about the aramana upanishya pachya. The aramana is the object which is decisive in conditioning the citta now. A particular taste that there's a lot of attachment to, for example, can be aramana upanishya pachya. It can be decisive for the clinging at this moment, citta with clinging at this moment. Or it may be the object that we've heard and considered a lot about, visible object or sound, may be a condition for understanding at this moment because we've heard and consider it so much. So this is Aramana Upanisya Pachya. So when we talk about Gochara as Upanisya Pachya, it is the object that is conditioned for understanding at this moment, because there has been the wise considering about the reality. So in each case, it's referring to what is decisive support for the particular citta at this moment, with attachment or with understanding. And the last one is the very, very, very broad one, which you've heard about a lot, Pakatu Upanisya Pachya. Pakatu means natural. So it is the natural decisive support condition. So the kindness now is a conditions more kindness in future. It is arises again and again by this condition, understanding. The understanding now accumulates by Pakatu Upanisya Pachya. And actually we find that every citta and cetasika in life is conditioned by this condition. Even the seeing or the hearing, which are the result of karma, that karma also needs Pakatu Upanisya Pachya to condition it to arise. So it's a very broad condition. But when people say, oh, why is he so mean, or why does she have so much understanding? It's all by accumulated tendencies, all by Pakatu Upanisya Pachya. But anyway, the Upanisya is the decisive support which conditions the citta and the cetasika now, either by way of proximity or object, or the accumulation, the habit at this moment. Is there anything in, I think, yes, is there anything in particular you would like to hear about or ask about? Otherwise, I'll ask Ajahn to add more and question you more. Would you like to add more, or would you like to say anything, any aspect in particular you would like to ask about, Sal?
Yes, because the knowing about these topics, they not too much. I just know a little bit about this, like there are a lot of pachaya for one thing appear. So
Yes.
there are many confusing when I read about pachaya. That's why I say to you, give more guiding for the beginner. Thank you.
And it's another example, like Anne referred to earlier, that more and more subtle. We read, first of all the 24 conditions, and seeing is conditioned by karma and by the visible objects that it has impinged on eye sense. But then we begin to appreciate that there are many different conditions which condition the reality that arises now, not just one condition. So there has to be a little more appreciation, a little more deeper understanding in order to let go of the idea of self or I or something here. So the point of considering more about different pachya is not for academic study or to learn the names or to be an expert, but just to understand how seeing now, kindness now, meanness now, sound now arises by different conditions. That's the whole point. No one there, no thing there. And that's the point with any of these areas of study. like the right or wrong thinking or any of these points, is to understand no one there, nothing there at all. Let me see if Ajahn would like to add more.
Understanding Pakatu Panisya is to understand what is there appearing in daily life. For example, different people, different thought, different action or deeds. By Pakatu Panisya, the condition for each moment, so very, very subtle in all different ways. For example, the way one talks, the way one sits, the way one walks, the way one eats. See, when there is the understanding of Pakatu Panisya, no one at all, only the accumulation from moment to condition such and such, thinking or deeds or words or speaking. What is chitta at that moment? Can it be more metta, friendly, understanding person? What is there is by conditions. Otherwise, what is the use of I understand? Pakatu panisya pachya. See, that's why all moments support right understanding when it begins to be kusla with understanding of the truth that no one there at all. But before it can have such understanding, it takes quite a long time to understand the change of the way one behaved in the past and present, and the future less and less akusla. Naturally, when it's there, known, that is different from before. That's why in daily life depends on understanding of Pakatu Panisya Pachaya of other Pachaya to condition such moment with such different Jitasikas, like a little more understanding, a little more metta or friendliness and so on, gradually, little by little, to let go the idea of I and the other. Otherwise, it's I and the other. And think about the others, not about the moment of thinking, which is taken for I'm thinking at all. That's why understanding more and more, right understanding develops by itself to begin to understand what is there appearing unexpectedly, what level of understanding is there. It can be just be calm, no interest to react and so on, but what is there is known as I when the right understanding is strong enough. But the more understanding, the more kusla condition, a little more unusual kusla than before. Unusual because before that kusla is just quite a little, only to someone, some friends, not all. But after hearing and understanding more and more, the kusala dhammas are developed too by panya, and it supports panya to understand more when it's moment of kusala, not moment of akusala as before. That's why just learn to understand the truth of the reality, which is nama, which is rupa, because it's there all the time, but no thought about it almost all the time, depending on conditions. How much understanding condition the moment of understanding that which is there, as even object of thinking, rightly, not wrongly. Even thinking is conditioned by the accumulation of all dhammas from moment to moment. That's all. And this is the way to understand the moment which is now not understood, little by little. Because what can be understood has to be right now when it's there appearing. When it's gone, no characteristic to be known at all as it is. That's why now everyone sees, and what about everyone's understanding? More or less, depending on condition and gone. That's why live in a moment, no matter it is today, now, or tomorrow, or it's going to be tomorrow, from moment to moment right now, all are dhammas. Even thinking right now is dhamma. That's why it's the way dhamma is, dhammata. It develops by itself, by conditions. They are all conditions for the other moment, unexpected moment. So just live to understand Dhamma. The most precious among all Dhamma which arise and falls away, understanding is the best. It can understand the truth of what is there, little by little, from hearing and seeing the value, the precious of understanding and no understanding at all. Just live with ignorance, attachment, and more attachment. So there can be any moment conditioned by different levels, different accumulation of right understanding. For example, at moment of someone gives something to you, what is that moment? So many different thoughts about that moment by conditions. The appreciation of the other's wholesomeness can be there when there's more understanding of the value of wholesome moment. Some would say that he's poor why receive what he gave to you. But what about his kusala moment? Condition such moment of kusala to give away things for the other. But it depends on each person. For example, they may think of the result, but it's not your own matter at all. Your own matter is to understand the very moment to be known, whether it's conditioned by what? Appreciation, pity in the other's wholesome citta, which it just arises by very, very, very strong kusala too. Because even just a very little moment, it arises against the storm of akusala in a day. That's why appreciation the others. And there can be more thought about it. For example, appreciate the object because it's what you are thinking about to have it. See, it's joy, not anyone at all. But it can be moment of adding more akusla, lopa attached to an object. So the way receiving with right understanding is different from the moment when there's no understanding of what is there at that moment at all. That's why who can understand the precious moment of just a moment of right understanding develops in a moment, from moment to moment. Without that particular moment, how can be other more moments in the future with such and such more careful, more wiser understanding or considering? All depends on conditions, but in truth, no one there at all. The point is that no matter what is there in life, in the day, at night, or in any events, they are dhammas. That's why all comes to understand Dhamma as it is. The Ariya Satya is long way because this is only pariyati, understanding what is said about the truth deeper and deeper and deeper. And the point is to understand the absolute truth, ultimate truth. No one, it's gone. If it's there, it just condition less attachment. That's why from daily life with lots of great heap of akusala, it can be moment of kusala in between. That's why the one who does not underestimate just a moment of kusala can be conditioned for a little more moments of kusala. That's why we come together and talk about the truth to condition right understanding and all kinds of kusala develop from hearing, understanding the truth of no one at all. That's why what is there in life begin to be object of considering a little more carefully, little more, until it can be object of direct understanding of the nature of it, the beginning of understanding the difference between direct awareness with understanding, because it's the truth is heard enough to understand the truth of that object appearing. Gradually, little by little, what is that develops a little more, unexpectedly. Long, long way to go, because the way is so long, all the way on and on and on, no end yet, until right understanding develops, until that which arises cannot arise anymore because of no conditions for that to arise. So very natural right now.
And this is Pakatu Upanishya Pachya Tsao, the gradual accumulation of kusala, as opposed to more or more akusala as usual. So more understanding, conditioning, more metta. And I think last time we discussed about how gradually one's attitude changes, like the more understanding that actually no being, no people is actually a condition for more metta, more sympathy, more joy in goodness, less thinking about just this one or that one, and less thinking about what I can do or what the others should do. Or Azita gave the example, how can I stop this behaving like this or this, blah, blah, blah. And so instead of accumulating more blah, 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 they can gradually more understanding leads to conditioning of more kusala. But it's all by Pakatu Upanishya Pachya, because no one can change, no one can do anything differently. But those habits, those tendencies, good and bad, all develop and accumulate in this way. So this is the great value of listening, considering, understanding the Dhamma, conditions for understanding to slowly develop, kusala to develop, without any idea of anything to be done at all. So it's very joyful and very subtle. And when anger or attachment arises, there can be understanding. It's just a Dharma, like Azan said, anything can be. The object is conditioned that way. It cannot be any other way. So it's all for the purpose of letting go the idea of I doing anything. And whatever has arisen is gone. The anger a moment ago, the attachment a moment ago, the wrong view, the regret, it's all gone. So always back to this moment, the habit, the development of the kusala now, like when we talked about the gotras before. So it is the understanding that develops of the object, which there is more and more familiarity to as being the object of understanding. Any questions or comments, Zhao?
Thank you, Chan. Thank you, Sarah, about the guiding. Because I think about 24 Bachelor long time ago. And I kept the chest of 24 edition in front of me and I study every day. But I couldn't remember 24 Bachelor. And that's why this made me confusing. And I begin to learn about Bachelor because sometimes in the discussion we meet the word related to the 24 Bachelor. First, I cannot remember. I couldn't memorize. That's why the writing from Achan and you today is making me more relaxed. And maybe it's good for me to begin again. Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
And the purpose of the consideration and study is not to just memorize the details about the different 24 pachya and sub-pachyas and so on, because if there is no understanding of the reality now, for example, metta as opposed to attachment now, and how it develops, no matter how much we read about Pakatu Upanisya Pachya or other Pachya, there won't be any understanding. So it has to come back to the Dhamma now. Otherwise, for example, I remember some friends in Vietnam who had studied a lot and knew a lot of details and had a lot of questions about the details in theory, but then would just go to meditation center or teach meditation. So it's like it's useless because it's still the clinging to I, what I can do, how I should study or how I should practice. So however much detail one knows in theory, if it's not the understanding now of metta as a conditioned Dhamma or the others, anger as just a Dhamma, not someone who is annoying or angry, then it doesn't bring any understanding. So this is why it's not just a matter of learning the details and learning the names and being able to recite, but beginning to appreciate what is the nature of metta now, what is the nature of annoyance now. Does it belong to anyone? How is it conditioned? It has to be daily life. Because if there is no development of understanding, there's not going to be any development of other kinds of kusala at all. If it's all taken for I, it doesn't help at all. So it's a helpful topic.
Really helpful to me.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Maybe anyone else has a comment or anything they'd like to bring up. Whatever we read about, study, it's just for the letting go of wrong understanding, which we mentioned earlier, but not anyone who can do anything to let go of wrong understanding, just the careful consideration and very gradual development of understanding performs its task, shines a light so that gradually there's less and less wrong understanding, but not by wishing or wanting or trying or doing anything at all.
Sarah, I'd like to have a comment. Yes, because I listened, I joined the discussion in Thai in Prachuap. So it reminds me about the word Thanachan said about the Nisai Mai, the new habit by listening and considering the Dhamma, the reality now. So with our understanding, we think that the habit is created, we have by the method, I mean that by practice of listening and considering. So if without right understanding, we think that is something permanent and that we can do, that the thing we can do for creating to having a new habit. So it's very good to be reminded about this. Only a Dhamma. It's not something permanent and not something we can do it. So yeah, so if possible, I'd like to have Thanachan explain more and Jonathan will explain more about this. Thank you.
Is it not Pakatupanisya Pachaya?
Yes.
That's right, not just learn about the word, but the way it is. If there is no hearing about careful considering, can it be more careful, a little more careful, a little more careful? Each moment of hearing about the truth. That's why what is heard can be considered a little more careful by new habits, not just think I understand it already and so on.
Yes.
It's more to learn. Not only one Pachaya, see. And why do we learn about Pachaya? To understand the way Dhamma is. It's there already by its own conditions. No one can do anything because actually, what is anyone? Nothing at all. Seeing is gone. Before seeing, there's no seeing. Is this Pakatu Panisaya Pachaya? To have more understanding, or we can say new understanding, each moment of hearing about it. Gradually, little by little, until it's there as habits, not just belief, not enough yet, because it's not known, it's not directly known as it is, as what we heard. That's why there can be more confidence of the words of the teachings, pariyatti, patipatti, pativeda, ananda. Each word just bring about the understanding of the truth of what is there right now. Who make it arise? Impossible. It's there already. New habits, not to think of the future, but what about that which is there now? Is it attended, interesting to understand the truth as Buddha had enlightened? Or apajyasi? Without this moment, can there be pajya to understand a little more?
Yes, it is.
Yes, and can you hear me, Helen?
Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
and even a word like listening and considering, like you mentioned, you discussed about, well, it was discussed about new habits by listening and considering. Even a word like listening can be misunderstood. People may think as long as they go and join the discussions in Bangkok or in the South or in India, then this is listening. But if the listening is not with wise considering, with understanding, then one could be listening to anything. So it depends on the nature of the listening. There can be listening with wrong understanding too, when one takes what one reads or takes what one hears to be about someone doing something. Whatever is read, whatever is heard can be misunderstood. And like you said, there can be the idea that of even this listening as a practice or a method, something else to be done in the day, that, oh, one cannot go out or help one's family because one has to listen for more and more hours in the day, for example. So there can be wrong understanding, wrong ideas about something permanent, doing something all the time. So each word, even listening carefully, has to be understood. Like now, how many moments are listening carefully and how many moments are listening unwisely? Moments of seeing and hearing, no listening, no habit of kusala, at moments of clinging, at moments of ignorance, at moments of daydreaming, no listening carefully, no new habit. So whatever we read about, whatever we hear about, it's just for a moment and then gone, all by Pakatu Upanisya Pachya, each new habit, each old habit. And as you suggest, usually people have the idea of changing their habits, changing their tendencies, having more kindness, doing more good. But what about all the wrong idea? No more kindness at moments of clinging to what I should do. And even if life seems so sweet for a period, it seems that one just has good thoughts about others and one's behaving in a generous way. But it's just for those moments. What about later when one has an argument with the family, or what about next life? So that the deep-rooted habits of clinging and ignorance and wrong understanding are very deeply ingrained. Until they are eradicated, they will arise again and again and again, and the subtle layers are not understood at all. So it's good topic, good more
Yes.
appreciation of Bhagavata Upanishad Bhashya, of habits,
So,
different kinds of
even
habits.
the
None of
new,
them
yeah, I think that new word is a new habit is can be understood as a Dhamma, as a conditioned Dhamma. And so it's so subtle.
not belonging to you or me. People think they will have new habits. Okay, I won't get cross with my family again, or I won't this or that. And they think, now I have a new habit. But this is not the understanding of the development of kusala at all. This is more clinging to I and how I would like to be, such as when people say, okay, my resolution is to have more metta, more goodness. But this is actually just developing the old habit of more clinging, more wishing, more wanting goodness for me.
Thank you.
So we're talking about the gradual development of understanding as a new habit, a new attitude, but not by trying or wishing or wanting, just by conditions. I think Ajahn point is a good one, not just thinking it's been understood already. Some people think, oh, I've listened for a long time, or even the first time I listened, okay, I understand. Seeing is no self, hearing is no self, no need to hear more. I get the points, all fine. But it's never enough understanding.
Yes.
Like no matter whether we're talking about reading or listening, the careful consideration is never enough. And if one just thinks it's enough and one carries on as usual, then it is just one's usual way of thinking, one's usual clinging. So one underestimates how strong the unwholesome tendencies are, how much listening there has to be, on and on and on. Even the Aryan disciples continue to listen on and on and on. So it's never enough.
We feel that the more we listen to the reality, the reminder about the reality now, it seems that because it doesn't appear, so it seems that we know nothing about the hearing now, the seeing now. So yes, it's never enough to listen again and again and consider again. Okay.
Really appreciate that you join all the Zooms, Hang and Zhao, and see the great value in the listening and considering. And sometimes people may say, oh, well, you have more free time, but it's not that. It means it's a priority. Like Zhao could just be playing with his granddaughter, but he sees the benefit of listening and considering, even though the language is difficult for him. And for you too, you could still be working and earning more money, but understand the benefit of listening, the considering, being with wise friends. And Alberto, who sees the value of getting up in the middle of the night to join the discussions like now. Do you have any comments or anything you'd like to bring up today, Alberto?
Yeah, I have a sort of personal comment. I'm not sure if it's easier to have mudita for others kusala. Actually, it's more like a comment. I think it's easier to have to rejoice of the others kusala than have karuna for those people akusala. Like maybe for Ajah's trip to India and all the kusala she shared and it's not difficult to rejoice about with kusala for this, but I think kusala, which because karuna is a kind of kusala too. So when there is others, when we are thinking about others akusala, having kusala ourselves is more difficult than in the case of rejoicing for the in case of kusala of the others. That's my thinking anyway. I'm not sure if I made myself clear.
I think it comes down to the understanding too, because like you say, we can appreciate Ajah's kusala in India and of others too, and the great value of sharing the Dhamma, for example, because there's enough understanding to appreciate the great value in that. if we talk to other people who don't see any value in sharing Dharma or understanding their truth, no conditions for mudita because it's not appreciated. So it's a good example of how understanding conditions mudita, seeing the great value in that and that great kusala. But as for the karuna, it doesn't need to just be karuna for the others, akusala. Like, for example, if someone is ill in hospital or is sick or has a problem or has just lost a family member, there can be karuna, sympathy for the others, for their thoughts, for their feelings, without thinking about whether the other has kusala or akusala. Like if someone has just experienced loss or is in pain, there can be sympathy with pleasant feeling at those times. One doesn't have to think, oh, that other person has, got a kusala at all. So just knowing the difficulty of that situation, because one knows no one likes to have pain, no one likes to experience loss of what one's so attached to, like family members. So condition for sympathy naturally, but quite different from the conventional idea of sympathy, which is usually with unpleasant feeling.
It's interesting. It's the result of akusala, like being sick or having health problems, and yeah, that's another occasion for karuna. Yeah, thank you.
So if I hear someone is ill or someone like yesterday bumped into a friend who just broken their shoulder, so I think can be conditions for karuna instantly, no time to think about or judge whether their citas are kusala or akusala at all, but just one hears about it and there is a condition for sympathy. Like if you say to me, oh, your mother's sick at the moment, okay, condition for karuna, thinking about your mother with sympathy, no matter what kind of citas she might have, and nothing to do with akusala. There cannot be karuna for our own akusala at all. It's always for the others. But even if someone has a lot of anger, for example, or is lost in their attachment and it won't have a good outcome, there can be, the more understanding, the more sympathy there is, instead of being annoyed with their anger or their outburst or their judgmental about the attachment. There can be more sympathy because one knows how difficult it makes life. Anyway, there's not much time, so let's see what if Ajahn can add more or make some more comments to your questions or comments.
What about your question again, please?
Yeah, Ajahn, it's about the mudita for rejoicing for the others. Kusala. Is it easier than having kusala for the others being bad doing bad things and doesn't matter towards who. I think I remember something you mentioned some time ago, but I don't remember the details. In general, is it easier to rejoice for other kusala or to feel sympathy for others akusala?
Is it just the idea or the understanding of the reality right then as it is, which is the aim of studying about, no matter what is sympathy or whatever it is? It's just the word about that which is not there anymore. As soon as one thinks about anything, the nature of that which we try to find out is not there at all. That's why can it be known as different ones from this to that and on, but to understand that very moment which hasn't been understood before, and on until there's a moment of seeing what should be understood. The story about that, or try to find out what is there, what is not there at all. That's why just learn to understand it. It's there by conditions. We don't have to say it's lopa, or it is dosa, or it is metta, or it is karuna. Not at all, because that's just the word, not the attention to the characteristic which is there as just in a moment and then gone. Different ones at moment of attention, attending to the characteristic which is different from moment to moment. That's why no matter how much we thought about it, it's just the word, the idea, but not the nature of that which is there to be known of. It's that which can be learned as we have heard about it, but not at the time when it's not there, and learn a lot about it. But when it's there, no understanding of it, because no understanding of the nature of it, that it's just a reality, because the object must be different for sure by conditions, never be the same one which hasn't arisen before at all. But the nature of it as not as we think about it as something like the word karuna and so on. But the nature of it, it's just a reality, and it cannot be known about its nature yet, because it's just there, being attended and then gone. That's why learn to understand the moment, which is the direct understanding of that object, or just keep on thinking about it. And Panya can understand the difference of whatever is there. It is only I am thinking, but the I is not known, and the thinking is not known. It's just the idea about what is there. So it's still I, not any Dhamma at that very moment at all. That's why to learn about the truth, it has to be understanding what should be the object of understanding, the nature of the characteristic of that which is there. So very short, but it's there as a reality, different from the others. Learning to understand the nature of it gradually, and the more understanding, the more it is what we have heard at that very moment, as it is sympathy, or as it is with lopa, or as it is with feeling, different kind of feeling, different levels. The truth is there, and we have learned about it. But the moment of realizing what is there, as we have learned, is better than just keep on following the word about what is there. Otherwise, it's not studying the Dhamma, it's studying the word about Dhamma only. So what is there? Can it be known as whether it's sympathy or metta, friendliness, or what? But the nature of that which is unexpectedly there, so very short, but it is so true. Nobody can change its characteristic at all, because the next one is not the previous one, never be the same. No word, but the nature of it appears to be known. So we study Dhamma from the very beginning, it's there. And then by conditions, it's gone. It cannot be known about the story of it, but it can be known that it's there by conditions and then gone. Even the nature of Nama or the Rupa is not to be thought about because its nature is there. Hardness cannot be attachment. So what is there, little by little.
It's like thinking about the situation, imagining the reality, but it's already it's just the idea of which we think about with a kusala anyway. Probably nothing to do with kusala to start with. So as you said, it's, not the present moment, not about the
Not the study of Dharma.
sorry.
I think it's a good topic to continue next time. I think we can continue with this topic. So thank you very much, John and everyone.